This podcast is part of the It Was a Thing on TV podcast network.
An anthology on the bad, the short-lived, and forgotten shows and events in television history. You are listening to It Was a Thing on TV.
Time is up. You ran into trouble.
Episode 602, the 2025 Year in Review. The 2025 Year in Review lasted from January 1st of 2025 to December 31st of 2025, with edits where necessary, since we're not recording on the 31st, for a total of 365 days. Guys, we made it to the end of another year. We've been here over 6 years now. This, I believe, is the 6th year we've done this. I don't think we did this in 2019 in our first year. I think our first version of this was in 2020. So this is year 6 that we are formally recapping in this format. And it's going to be the same as every year. We're going to just streamline it a little bit because, sorry, I don't feel like editing 3 to 4 hours worth of footage. We're going to do this in like an hour and a half straight shot. I'm going to just go through the big stuff. We're going to try to minimize unnecessary commentary. But that doesn't necessarily apply to the first thing we're going to talk about. Now, we're going to use the same sort of setup we've had in previous years, where we do the worst of first, and then we do the top stories of the year, and then we get to our favorite shows of 2025, and then the shows that ended in 2025, and then finally the obituaries, the people who passed in 2025. But we're going to do a little adjustment because I seriously think we could spend a good 10 to 15 minutes just talking about one topic and one topic only, which actually combines the worst of 2025 with the top stories of 2025. And what that is basically CBS/Paramount in 2025. In case you haven't been paying attention, earlier this year, Skydance bought CBS and Paramount, and from there, stuff got bad. It was not a good year for CBS and Paramount. Surely you remember The Late Show with Stephen Colbert got canceled because a certain person who lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue got his little feelings hurt because Stephen Colbert can't say any nice stuff about him, justified or otherwise. But that was just like the tip of the iceberg for CBS and Paramount in 2025. The evening news, a staple for CBS, going all the way back to Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather. They've had some tough times in the last, say, 10, 15 years, probably since the time Rather retired. A lot of shifting around at the news desk, and this year they did something which I haven't seen, at least in a contemporary network newscast. They went to a 2-reporter desk. They had John Dickerson and Maurice Dubois, and honestly, I liked it. I watched the CBS Evening News almost every night. I thought it worked well. Unfortunately, I'm not the person running the show, and they made changes, and those changes were just in the last probably about 2 or 3 weeks as you hear this, because I've seen Jerrica Duncan at the desk by herself, and even tonight was Major Garrett at the desk. So you get rid of John Dickerson and Maurice Dubois, and you bring in a traditional one-person desk, and there's a common tie among a lot of things that we're going to be talking about. We'll talk about that common bond in a little bit. But then, and this just happened in the last 2 weeks, as you hear this, within the last week as we record, there was a very scathing expose of CCOT, the prison in El Salvador, that 60 Minutes was going to air, and 60 Minutes promoted quite heavily up until maybe about 8 hours before 60 Minutes aired on the East Coast. It got yanked at the last minute. Problem is, 60 Minutes in other countries showed it. So the power that be, who we're going to talk about momentarily, took it off the 60 minutes that aired in the United States, but Canada, they got to see it. And this is sort of like, when you're a kid, your parents say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And what is your first instinct? Well, I'm going to do it. I don't care if I'm not supposed to push the red button. I'm going to push the red button. Hey, Canada, you're not supposed to see this, but oops, we showed it to you. And Canada, being the gracious people that they are, our great neighbors of the North, people put it online. And I don't know about your families, guys, but Christmas Eve at my relative's house, my dad, myself, and my aunt, all we talked about for about 20 minutes was the CCOT piece. Did you see it? What did you think about it? And I had stuff to say. I think I need to reveal the name behind, especially the last two things we talked about, the two-person desk going down to a traditional one-person desk and not airing this piece on CCOT on 60 Minutes. The common bond is the head of CBS News, the new head of CBS News, I should say, as of earlier this year, Barry Weiss. And no, we're not talking about the Barry Weiss who was a bidder on Storage Wars. We were talking about the Barry Weiss who at one point dated Kate McKinnon. Go figure. That was about 23, 24 years ago. Greg, the floor is yours. Tell us how you feel about Barry Weiss.
Oh, this woman had no talent as a columnist for the New York Times. Not shocking because it takes no talent to write for the New York Times. She had no talent running a unaccredited university in Austin, Texas, and she had no talent in running a shitty-ass Substack run on free speech, which Larry Ellison, like a freaking idiot, overpaid for and decided, oh, I'll make you the head of CBS News. Dude.
That sums it up pretty nicely, if you ask me.
Chico, do you have anything to say?
You guys pretty much nailed it all in one shot. I mean, I guess if there was any one person who would summarize the timbre of 2025, it's this lady who is wholly unqualified for the job that she's been named to. But that didn't stop somebody with more money than sense from naming her to it.
Well, but also it shows the highly right-leaning slant of those people. Not to say that previously there was a left-leaning slant, but you're seeing a lot more support for a certain person in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and his cronies. And it's absolutely disgusting. And people have boycotted CBS and Paramount Plus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anything that's under that Paramount umbrella, they want nothing to do with it. Unfortunately, I'm not willing to give up Price is Right or some of the other stuff that the network airs or the networks, because I'm including anything under that Paramount umbrella, including Comedy Central, which we'll talk about in a little bit, TV Land, anything in that whole Viacom family of cable channels. But yeah, bend the knee and, well, I could say something about Nancy Reagan here, but no.
I'll just say this. Play stupid games that Paramount and the Ellison family have done. Win stupid prizes.
That sums it up nicely. Well, the CBS and Paramount issues was a big story for the year, a big, all-encompassing story. There were so many different facets to it. By no means was it the only bad thing we saw in 2025. Sort of going in a chronological order here, kind of, sort of. We're going to go to January, and that's when the announcement of Duck Dynasty's revival happened. By no coincidence, announced 2 days after the inauguration of that person who lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And I don't know about you, but I haven't heard a whole heck of a lot about that revival. I know it did air, but I don't see it getting anywhere near the press that maybe A&E and the powers that be thought it would get. I'm not saying it's a bomb, but I don't necessarily think it was the best choice to be revived under the circumstances.
Well, didn't the head of that family like die immediately afterwards?
We're going to talk about that later, Greg.
Oh,
I'm sorry for spoiling part of the In Memoriam, even though I don't think he's necessarily going to be one of the top names in Memoriam, but yes, he did pass away, Phil Robertson. I know we've mentioned in the past, Phil Robertson was actually the quarterback at, I believe it was Southeast Louisiana, at the same time that Terry Bradshaw was there. I think Phil Robertson was Terry Bradshaw's backup.
well, we know who got CTE among those two.
Moving on. One of the stories that we, the three of us, have picked up and sort of laughed at over the last year has to do with Doug Gottlieb, who you may know from CBS Sports Network, and he's also on the radio side. He was hired not in 2025, but in 2024. He was hired to be the head basketball coach at Green Bay. I think it's University of Green Bay. It's not Green Bay University. I should know this because Cleveland State, my alma mater, has been rivals with them for probably 40 years at this point, going back to before the Horizon League. I forget what it was. But regardless, I think it's University of Green Bay. And he did not have a good first year. If I remember correctly, his record for the first year was something in the range of about 4-26. 4 wins, 26 losses. That's not good. So, within the last month or so, he was given an ultimatum. You need to spend less time on the radio and more time coaching. Because, I should have mentioned this. Doug Gottlieb was doing the radio show at the same time he was coaching the University of Green Bay. So he was a full-time coach, but he was still doing his radio gig. So University of Green Bay said, give up the radio gig. We want you to focus on coaching the basketball. He did. And the team is actually a little bit better this year. Last time I checked, they were right at about 500. And they actually could conceivably win a couple more games this year because they're playing Cleveland State twice in January. I know they're playing on the 15th, and I think they're playing in Green Bay like on the 31st of January. And Cleveland State is not good this year. I think they're somewhere in the range of like 5 or 6 wins. One of the big moments from earlier this year, probably not seen by a whole heck of a lot of people because of when it aired. Morgan Wallen, as the SNL closing credits are rolling, he walks off the stage and gives the bird. There's speculation as to why he gave the bird. I'm sure we can make some conjectures, but that's not a good look, especially given who Morgan Wallen supports. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. He is conservative. He probably didn't like SNL making fun of
Mr. Black,
like they do. Another story, going back to the world of sports, is Shannon Sharpe, Hall of Fame tight end, been a broadcaster with ESPN for, probably well over 20 years at this point. He broke ties with ESPN to spend more time with his family. Well, that's nice. But then sexual assault allegations came about, and that's not so nice.
Oh, there's a story behind that.
Give us the story.
Okay, so we all know that Shannon Sharpe stepped away because of allegations. And the lady who he had the illicit relationships with, she got a fat settlement. The amount itself was never revealed, but apparently it was enough for her to retire from OnlyFans.
Never did I think in a million years I'd ever hear the statement, it was enough to retire from OnlyFans.
Now, I'm just trying to comprehend how much that could be, because I don't know how big this person is on OnlyFans. Was she making low six figures a year? Was she making high five figures? How much is enough to retire from OnlyFans? And I don't want an answer to that. I really don't. It just makes me wonder, okay, how many digits were in this settlement? 7? 8? But whatever. I'm not a OnlyFans person, and I really, truly will never be an OnlyFans person, but congratulations to her, I think. I don't know. One of the big stories this year, we've heard what's happened with ICE, and it's not in a positive light. Now, we talked about the whole CCOT thing earlier, which is related to ICE. CNN, they were a little tone deaf earlier this year. Instead of covering the LA ICE protests, they decided to air a live Broadway performance of Good Night and Good Luck. This may be sort of where the pendulum swings for CNN as well. They've been called very liberal in the past. Maybe they're now trying to take more of a conservative stance. Not maybe, they definitely are. You can see with some of the people on CNN broadcasts, they're bringing in more conservative pundits. Love them or hate them. So again, maybe this is to curry the favors of a certain occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Mr. Black.
Which his supporters will never watch. I think they're going for less of the news angle and more of the what's going to make our company money angle.
Well, that's what it comes down to in the end, is the almighty dollar. Speaking of news outlets, MSNBC. For some reason, they rebranded to MS Now, which there's so many ways you can interpret that this just wasn't really fully thought out.
Okay, I can explain the rebranding, okay? NBC spun off CNBC, MSNBC, and USA into their own separate company. Hence why MSNBC changed it to MS Now. But CNBC is still CNBC because it stands for Consumer News and Business Channel.
I get that, but the thing is, think about the other connotations of what MS means, besides Microsoft. Multiple sclerosis?
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Yeah. And I do believe that's actually where a lot of the backlash came online, was, MS means like multiple sclerosis. And yeah, I don't know if you necessarily want to call anything MS now, multiple sclerosis now. That, I think, is where it sort of got lost in translation or wasn't really terribly well thought out.
I think it's supposed to stand for, according to the press release, it's supposed to stand for My Source News Opinion World. That's what it means.
That may be what they want it to be, but that's not what the online community thinks.
No.
And sadly, I have not even watched it since the rebrand. Maybe I should give it a try. Maybe it will put me asleep at night. I don't know.
I haven't watched any cable news in like 13 months. And you know what? It's been great for my mental health.
The only cable news that I watch, I do like me some Have I Got News for You. They will skewer the current administration and put a humorous twist on current events. Plus, also, I think that Amber Ruffin is just so absolutely adorable. And Michael Ian Black, too. Absolutely adorable. I will also admit, and this may be something that the two of you don't like, I will admit to watching News Nation. It puts me to sleep on weekends. Well, no, I'm dead serious. After SNL on Saturdays, I'll turn to News Nation and I will sleep from 1 o'clock at the end of SNL until like 8:50 in the morning. And then 8:50 on Sunday morning, I flip the TV over to CBS, which unfortunately for that 5 to 10 minutes before CBS Sunday morning is Joel Osteen. But still, 9 a.m., you've got CBS Sunday morning, which is one of the better endeavors on CBS's news platter right now. But anyhow, getting back to late night television. We talked about the whole issue with Stephen Colbert. By no means was he the only victim of offending a certain occupant of a certain building on Pennsylvania Avenue. ABC and Jimmy Kimmel Live, they pulled him for about a week or so because that dear person at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue got his feelings hurt again. And then, 3 days after that, Sinclair and Nexstar didn't even air his show. But when Jimmy Kimmel came back, he got the best ratings he's ever had. Have the ratings maintained since then? I'll be honest, I haven't seen the show since about a week to a week and a half since Kimmel returned. But still, that was the jumpstart his ratings needed. I think those ratings when he came back were the best ratings he had in however long he's been on, 23 years, 22 years. Just need a little bit of publicity. And seriously, anti-Mr. Black publicity is really good publicity. And Sinclair and Nexstar, in case you don't know, they are very pro Mr. Black.
Nexstar also owns News Nation, hence why I was holding my tongue until now, but Perry Sook can get, you know.
Yes, I know Nexstar owns News Nation. Trust me, as I said, I don't watch News Nation for their insight. I don't watch it to see Cuomo, Chris or Mario or Andrew or whoever's on that network. I turn the volume down so it isn't something that like keeps my attention at night, and I'll sleep from, like I said, 1 o'clock after SNL or even before. You know, if it's a boring SNL, I'll turn it on at like 12:15, and I will sleep through the night until, like I said, 8:45, 8:50 a.m. Then I'll flip over to CBS, which shows the last 10 minutes or so of Joel Osteen, who I don't care for either. But you got CBS Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, and that's just a staple in my house, and it was a staple in my parents' house since I was a little kid. That's what we watched on Sunday mornings. Now, by no means is that all that's the worst of 2025. We could get into Byron Allen firing and then rehiring and firing meteorologists again. We could get into HGTV basically canceling everything. HBO, they shuttered a lot of their multiplex channels. Bowen Yang leaving SNL. Yes, it's good for him in the regard of, you know, he'll be a star on television or wherever he's going to go, movies, Broadway. But his last skit, there was not a dry eye in the house. That was a very touching, very moving, very heartfelt skit. When he was the Delta Lounge agent. Oh, that was great.
And we could have talked about the Prime Video War of the Worlds movie with Ice Cube, which, holy shit, was that terrible.
And we could have talked about Kim Kardashian's scripted series All's Fair. How that got renewed is beyond me.
But enough about the worst. Let's get to the top stories outside of CBS and Paramount, since we already covered that at the beginning. NBC and Peacock are taking over Sunday Night Baseball. Hallelujah. ESPN totally foobarred Sunday Night Baseball and all of their baseball coverage in the last, I'd say, 5 years or so, maybe even less than that. And thankfully, ESPN gets a reduced MLB slate starting next year. Now, the one thing I heard, the Guardians are now going to be airing on ESPN. ESPN's handling Cleveland Guardians games. So there is no more Guardians TV, which is what they did this past season after the whole FanDuel Diamond Sports debacle for the last few years. They're going to be broadcasting on ESPN. I don't know how that's going to work out, if they're going to want $100 for the season or if my cable rates are going to go up yet again, but I guess I'll figure that out in March or April. But while ESPN has a reduced MLB slate, they did buy stakes in NFL Network and MLB.TV. So I guess that means we're going to have more football. Not that that's a bad thing.
Well, Disney's already been incorporating NFL Network because they have been syndicating Rich Eisen's podcast now, and they now have control of Red Zone from NFL Network.
Also, I've seen that. What is the show? Good Morning. I forget what it is.
Good Morning Football.
Is it just simply Good Morning Football? I thought there was more to it than that.
It's simply Good Morning Football.
That's syndicated because our local independent station here, or one of our local independent stations, shows that at like 10 in the morning, even in the off season. How can you fill an hour show every weekday in the off season, especially like March, April, let's say a month and a half before the draft, around St. Patrick's Day? What are you going to do? Pieces about how different NFL players celebrate St. Patrick's Day? No. They'll figure out something.
It's the NFL. They make up freaking bullshit gossip and storylines. It's like freaking WWE now with the NFL.
How did I know you're going to say that? That NFL is now WWE making up storylines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, you know who's now a host on Good Morning Football?
Who's that?
Seth Rollins from the WWE's on there now.
Okay, now I don't even watch the show because I'm working at 10 o'clock generally every weekday. But Seth Rollins, oh my gosh. Okay.
Hey, he was on the Netflix coverage yesterday with Brandon Marshall and Manti Te'o, which is today's Who Are Three People Who Have Never Been in My Kitchen.
And a fourth person that's never been in your kitchen but may have been is Manti Te'o's girlfriend, hashtag 15-year-old jokes. Is Manti Te'o's girlfriend sort of like John Cena from 2010? We've never seen her.
You know what would have been amazing after John Cena's last match? That there'd be a voice like, there's one person you haven't faced yet, John. It's Manti Te'o's girlfriend. Oh, but Mike, you know what happened a couple of years ago? Remember when HBO Max changed their name to Max?
I remember it, yes.
Well, guess what? It's now HBO Max again.
Is it because of all the different corporate takeovers and whatnot? Or is it because they want to emphasize the HBO part of it? Because an app called Max, who the heck knows what's on it? But HBO Max, hey, we know we can go to this app and we can see Game of Thrones and Curb Your Enthusiasm and all the fun stuff that we see on HBO.
We didn't want our network to be associated with all of the sex and violence of Game of Thrones, but then we took the HBO away and realized that nobody knew who we were.
And really, I don't think people still know who they are outside of HBO, because things that should be under that big HBO umbrella cannot be found on the HBO Max app. Gotta say it, because we haven't mentioned it thus far this episode, and I don't know if we're going to mention it. I cannot find Tony Shalhoub Breaking Bread on the HBO Max app. I have to actually go to CNN's website to watch it. And unfortunately, that's the route I've got to go because I had a little power outage, literally like a second power outage on the 23rd. And it killed my DVR, and I'm not joking. It wiped out everything on the DVR, including every episode of Tony Shalhoub Breaking Bread. Cleaned up the DVR, though.
Another thing you're not going to find on Max now, Sesame Street, because it used to be on HBO Max. Now it looks like Sesame Street is moving house to Netflix.
And funny enough, who might be buying HBO Max soon? Netflix.
Netflix is going to own everything, aren't they? I thought we had anti-monopoly laws in this country. Well, that's neither here nor there. Hey, speaking of Sesame Street, this is a nice little time. Chico starts saying, speaking of HBO Max, Sesame Street isn't on Max anymore, or HBO, it's going to Netflix. Hey, talking about Sesame Street, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting closes up shop. That's sad. But also, hey, let's put more blame towards the administration led by that guy on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. That's our childhoods, 30, 40, 45 years just gone.
He doesn't care.
Well, because he wants to dumb down society. Seriously, he said numerous times, I enjoy stupid voters. I enjoy stupid people. So, hey, let's make the entire constituency stupid by, not just getting rid of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, but also he's closing up the Department of Education, which beyond, just making people smarter, that has a lot to deal with special education. He's just absolutely destroying society. And I do not apologize if I offend anybody listening. He is destroying society. Make America smart again, people. That's what we need.
Hell yeah.
And Chico's going to be my secretary of trivia knowledge. I'm going to run to be president, and Chico, he's going to be in my cabinet. He's going to be the secretary of trivial knowledge.
Wait, what?
What, do you want another title?
No, I'm just like, okay. That's a lot of responsibility for one man, especially given that one man is me.
Chico, the job entails you to play the Sporkle app for 2 hours a day. I think you can handle that.
Well, I've been playing the Sway app a lot, so.
Okay, you're not going to be the secretary of trivial affairs then. Got to play more Sporkle. That's become my thing in the last, 6 weeks. Got to keep that streak going.
How many Sporkle cons have I seen you at, Mike?
Given that I haven't traveled since 2019 for a certain reason, my left leg, but also because SporkleCon happens in the middle of the school year, the answer would be 0.
This next one's coming up next November, man.
I couldn't get time off in November. That's just not going to work out.
Oh.
Don't blame me. Blame the field that I work in.
What about Trivia Nationals in August?
That is a very distinct possibility because I believe we return to school the week after that ends. Because I believe it's like August 7th, August 8th. And I don't think students return till like the 19th or so or something like that. That's a possibility. I'll have to keep my eyes open on that.
Tell you what, if you and I end up going, we end up hanging out with our boys. We may be doing a live remote with Greg in New York.
Back to our top stories of this year. Nexstar, who we talked about earlier, they acquired Tegna, and boy, oh boy, again, what I said about monopolies earlier. Let's just have one giant ownership group of television stations. And not just that, but also right-leaning television stations. And Tegna goes beyond that. Tegna is also USA Today. So again, a right-wing media empire to battle Fox News. Joy. Once this goes through, I think half the stations in Cleveland are going to be Nexstar. Because the Fox affiliate is Nexstar, the CW affiliate is Nexstar, and the NBC affiliate was Tegna, but once the acquisition goes through, they'll be Nexstar. Yeah, there's no monopolies out there. Just turn a blind eye towards all that stuff. Let's get away from media empires and monopolies and all that. The big pop culture hit for the year, in terms of television, K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix. I don't get it. I don't want to get it. But it's big.
It's a K-pop girl group, and they're hunting demons. It's right there in the title.
I still don't get it. They're like Labubu's. I don't understand them either. And as Lewis Black said, Labubu's are just Teletubbies on meth.
You know what was my favorite moment of the year, Mike?
What was your favorite moment of the year?
When the Oregon Duck dressed up as a Labubu.
What doesn't the Oregon Duck dress up as? That may be the best mascot. I know we love our Big Red around here, but the Oregon Duck, that may be like mascot of the year. But no, I don't get K-pop Demon Hunters. I don't get Labubu. I kind of understand 6'7". Kind of. I don't really want to understand that any more than I already do understand it. And then on top of every acquisition we've had this year, how about Netflix buying Warner Brothers Discovery? As I said, Netflix is going to own every damn thing.
Well, let me just say, out of the 3 potential buyers for WB Discovery, between them, Paramount, and Universal Comcast, this was probably the best of the 3. Because Netflix was the only one of the 3 that didn't own a studio already.
Still, after hearing the name Netflix so often, it does bring the question to mind, why the heck do we have the Sherman Antitrust Act? It's supposed to prevent monopolies, yet here's Netflix buying anyone and anything. They're going to be a huge media empire. Maybe I just need to start bowing to my Netflix overlords. Never thought you'd have a Sherman Antitrust Act mentioned on this podcast. Hey, guess what? As I said, I'm going to have a Secretary of Trivial Affairs. Yes, we're going to make this a smart podcast, people. Well, we're going to try. Now, by no means did that cover every top TV story of 2025. We had things like American Dad coming back to Fox. That's coming back, I believe, in February after the Super Bowl. We did lose After Midnight after 2 seasons, which really, I think it had it coming. After Midnight was no At Midnight, specifically because it was twice as long, and twice as long is a little bit too much of that At Midnight stuff. Roku buys one of our favorite apps or services, well, service with an app, Friendly TV. We did have actually a record in terms of game show wins. You may not have heard about it because it happened in France. A contestant named Emilien, he lost on the show 12 coups de midi. 12, I don't know what coup is. De means of, and midi is noon. It was a noontime show, so 12 coups of noon, whatever it is. He lost after 646 wins. So imagine, if you will, Ken Jennings, 74 wins. Multiply that now by 8.5 times longer. Imagine if Ken Jennings had won every episode of Jeopardy for well over 3 years. That's 646 wins. That's pretty darn amazing. And he ended up winning somewhere in the range of 2 million euros. We do have a Reading Rainbow reboot coming up, and I know Chico's psyched about that. Myself as well. I don't necessarily know much about the new host, but from what I've seen and what I've heard, he's going to be a pretty adequate replacement for LeVar Burton. And yet again, this goes back to the whole education thing. We're getting more educational shows in a time where a certain administration doesn't want us getting more education shows, which is perfectly fine by me in terms of getting more education shows. So good on PBS or Netflix or whoever's doing the new Reading Rainbow. We need that for a new generation.
It is on the Kids Zuko channel on YouTube if you are interested.
Is it currently airing, or is this going to come out in 2026?
It started in October.
Oh, sweet. I'm going to have to take a look at that. Now we're going to get into our favorites of 2025. We're going to start with two shows that had crossover episodes. I believe the first episode may have been early 2025. It may have even been late 2024. The Abbott Elementary and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia crossovers. The first one was It's Always Sunny went to Abbott Elementary. And oh my gosh, was that everything I expected and more. Where should we start? I don't even know where we should start, but I think Charlie going into a classroom, that's great. Doesn't know how to read, but the kids were helping him read, and he was actually learning. I mean, that got my educator heart pitter-pattering. But then you had Frank Reynolds. He was doing like lawn keeping, ground maintenance, groundkeeping, whatever you want to call it. And he found that dead raccoon. Not just absolutely hilarious. It was a Frank Reynolds thing to do. But, oh, as great as that was, when they flipped the script and Abbott Elementary went to Patty's Pub, that was just the best 2.5 hours of television I saw all year. I absolutely love it. I love myself Abbott Elementary, but I also love myself some It's Always Sunny. And they itched that scratch. That was really well done by all parties involved. Another show that we loved, the King of the Hill reboot. I'll admit, I haven't seen any of it. I've seen bits and pieces online. But I like that they made Bobby like 21 or 22 years old. So it isn't just a reboot leaving off where Bobby is 12, 13, 14. No, he's actually now a grown adult. I gotta commend them for that.
I have seen the King of the Hill reboot. I will tell you right now, it taps into the oeuvre of the madness of reality in a way that not only honors what King of the Hill meant to all three of us, certainly Mike and myself, but also in a way that doesn't insult the intelligence of its audience.
And also, Bill in the reboot is hilarious.
I may actually have to watch that sooner or later, especially if I actually get a Netflix account, which I'm trying not to. But since Netflix is going to own everything, I think I'm going to have to pony up some funds one day.
Well, no, because it's on Hulu.
Well, here's the thing. Hulu's about to go bye-bye, so it's going to be on Disney+.
Well, speaking of ponying up some funds, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they got funds. They got paid to the tune of $1.5 billion. $1.5 billion, I believe, to do 50 episodes of South Park spread out over 5 seasons. How do they return that favor, that money? By going totally scorched earth on Mr. Black this season. Even people who never saw South Park are watching South Park because they are just going after every bit of the administration. Where should we start with that? Just an entirely goofy season, but at the same time, just scathing commentary on the society we live in nowadays.
My favorite part of the whole season was the FCC commissioner losing his freedom of speech.
There were so many different parts of the season. Some of them were kind of weird, kind of goofy. The whole thing regarding Cartman and Peter Thiel with the 6'7" thing. I understand why Cartman's laughing at it, but the whole tie-in with all that, I thought that was a little goofy. But no, my favorite part, when you had Mr. Black and J.D. Vance as Mr. Rourke and Tattoo on Fantasy Island, that killed me. And even J.D. Vance had the tattoo voice. Dead. Beautifully done. Another one of our favorite shows in previous years finally got a second season this year. Peacemaker.
And I need to say, holy crap, has the Invisible Man become an incredible actor now after this season? Because, man, Chico, if you watch like the next to last episode of season 2,
Finally got around to it.
oh my god, that was like too much for me to emotionally handle. I had to stop to watch it. I had to like sit down. I had to sit on like a bench outside and actually think about it.
I think that's what James Gunn was going for.
It was that deep. Okay. I guess I'm gonna have to fire up the old HBO Max or HBO Max and see that second season of Peacemaker.
Yeah. It has a great cast, including Tim Meadows, which segues into our next show, Mike.
This is great. I love all the segues we're doing now. As always, this isn't scripted. This is just how the natural flow of this is going. So speaking of Tim Meadows, one show that got a lot of advertising back in July, August, coming to CBS this fall, DMV. And DMV has not disappointed. It's basically The Office, kind of, sort of, but set in a DMV. I love it. Wish my DVR that conked out a couple of days ago didn't wipe out the entire series, but still. A very funny show. Definitely one, if you haven't seen it, please watch it. I'm guessing both of you guys have seen DMV?
I saw the first episode. I still need to make time to watch the rest of the episodes that have aired so far.
Same.
Well, that was my game plan, and then my DVR decided to take a dump a couple days ago. Oh, well.
Okay, one show that I really liked this year was Chad Powers, which stars Glenn Powell as the character made famous in that one Eli Manning thing for ESPN, where he went to a college campus and disguised himself in makeup to make a college football team. And let me just say, you'd think like this would be like a one-note premise based on the skit, but no, it's actually a pretty deep show. And if you really like college football, this is kind of like the college football equivalent of Ted Lasso.
I haven't seen it, but again, that's another one of those shows where you could not escape the promotion of it. It was highly promoted, I'd say from about August to October, right before the premiere. But it delivered. People are talking about it. And I do think that Ted Lasso comparison is actually very fair. How about another thing that, hey, again, another tie-in. Another, and this is beautiful. Speaking of a lot of promotion, the NBA on NBC and Peacock. Good heavens, has that been better than anticipated? We knew what the NBA on NBC was back in the 90s and 2000s and whatnot. They have done an absolutely fantastic job with the NBA.
If you're like the three of us of a certain age, you remember that the NBA on NBC wasn't just sports meets network. It was an experience. You remember the graphics package. You remember the commentary. You remember John Tesh's round ball rock. The return of the NBA on NBC. That hit all of our itches.
And it really helped that the first game for the return of the NBA on NBC, that Rockets Thunder game, went to double overtime, and that was an amazing game with one of the most incredible performances I've ever seen by SGA.
And not to take anything away from the TNT broadcasts from the last, 3 decades or so, 3.5 decades. But there's just something magical about the NBA on NBC. Again, the graphics, round ball rock, the commentators, just the whole package. It's just absolutely overwhelming and in a positive way. It's like a dream come true for NBA fans. Again, that's hardly all of our favorites in 2025, just trying to condense everything down. But one of my favorite moments of this year, back in July, maybe August, when you had Ken Jennings and Matt Damon on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Well, first off, Matt Damon with Jimmy Kimmel, I don't think I need to say anything else. We know about the Matt Damon jokes and the fake hostility between the two. But then you throw Ken Jennings into the mix. That was a delightful, not even hour, because it ran 2 episodes. That was a lovely, hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes of television. Capped off with them winning $1 million on a question where the lifeline used was the most generous lifeline ever used in Millionaire, and actually probably proved to a point that the 50-50 is random. Or it could be the 50-50 wasn't random, they just wanted to give away $1 million, which is a distinct possibility. Ken Jennings talked out the potential answers. He had it down to 2 answers, used the 50-50, and one of the answers that was left over was one he absolutely knew was wrong, so they basically just handed $1 million to Ken Jennings and Matt Damon. Great television.
Also, we'd be remiss not to mention SNL 50.
Oh, I totally forgot we had SNL 50 on the list. I just looked over it. SNL 50, my gosh, that was amazing. I think the worst part of it was the fact it ran over by 15 or 20 minutes. So anybody who had their DVR set to end the recording at 11, you had to keep it going to about 11:20 or so. Guilty as charged. But, SNL 50. That may be my favorite thing of the entire year. That was so well done, in spite of Jane Wickline being on the cast. Yes, we're going to use her name until she's gone because she is as useless as a bump on a log.
Hey, Mike, you know what would be the world's worst power couple?
Okay, hit me with it. I know this is going to be good.
David Stearns and Jane Wickline.
David Stearns and Jane Wickline. Oh my gosh. And every time they get together, David Stearns would be laughing. And the thing is, Jane Wickline is the least funny person in SNL history. Why are you laughing at her, David Stearns? Because I absolutely ruined the Mets.
I gotta find another pitcher in Japan that has an 8 ERA.
No, you need to find another second baseman. If Greg doesn't laugh at him, he's going to cry. So we need to keep the big guy laughing. We did lose some shows in 2025, and we lost some really good shows in 2025. We can't go through all of them. We've got a heck of a list, but we'll go through about 10 or 15 of the bigger names. And we'll start off with the Frasier reboot. Ended on the 17th of January. Since I hadn't seen it, I'm going to ask you guys, what happened?
Well, that's easy. Nobody watched it. It's 2 seasons, boom, gone. And if you ask me, that's kind of a shame because Frasier's son that became the standout character. I don't remember what his name was, though.
That may speak volumes to why this failed. The standout character is somebody you can't name.
Oh, Frasier's son is named Frederick, Chico.
Ah,
This next one, it's a loss, maybe not a big loss, but the thing is, I know Greg really enjoyed this, and I really enjoyed this. The Maximum Effort channel, it died on the 17th of January as well. Not only did it show reruns, but it had some original programming as well, which really was not that bad. It had that one show with Bruce Campbell, discontinued, I think it was. That was a fun show to watch. Plus, also one of our favorites, I believe, from last year, Flip a Coin, with Dolph Lundgren flipping a Swedish coin 21 times in half an hour. Absolutely surreal, but also at the same time, like absolutely absurd Swedish minimalist. A beautiful parody on what you'd probably see on Swedish television. Plus, it also showed reruns of Mad TV and 15, one of Greg's favorites. It just completely disappeared with like no warning. I used to watch it on Plex. One day, cannot find channel. It's like, okay, did they reassign the channels or, what's going on? And like a week later, that whole listing in the guide is gone. Our dear Maximum Effort channel, Ryan Reynolds' endeavor, gone, sadly. And nobody has even brought any of the shows back. Because again, I think discontinued with Bruce Campbell, that's a show that could be picked up on a regular linear cable channel. I think that would be a great show to air on, let's just say, a MeTV, a nostalgia channel of sorts. Alas, nobody wants anything to do with it. Hey, speaking of not wanting to do anything with it, TBS, they said to Nicole Byer and Invisible Man, we don't want any more big balls from you guys. Wipeout died again. February 3rd. TBS did get what? 3 seasons out of this? At least 2, but did they get 3?
I think they got 2, where they aired one in its entirety. They aired like half of season 2, stopped, and then picked up where they left off for the rest of season 2, which just aired like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I saw it was on TV not that long ago. Apparently, America's had enough of big balls. Well, also at the same time, when did Wipeout start? 2008, 2009, and it's almost 2026. I would say 18 years is not a bad length of time for a TV show. Now, admittedly, there are probably 5 or 6 seasons of the original version, and then you had 2 or 3 seasons, or 2 seasons, like you said, of this version. But still, you've had an entire generation of TV viewers, especially younger ones, watch people get socked by big balls and swinging sticks and all that stuff. Next one, and this one actually hurts, I think, because so many people love this series. Cobra Kai. It gave life to that entire Karate Kid franchise. And I know a lot of people enjoyed that show. February 13th, it ended.
And it was a great continuation of the movie series. And it also had so many deep cuts to the movies, too.
I will say, though, bringing in an AI Mr. Miyagi in the last season, that was a miss.
No, they didn't do AI Mr. Miyagi. That's absolutely atrocious, just by the sound of it. AI Mr. Miyagi.
They did,
no.
And it was bad.
Well, everything AI is bad, just about.
To quote Jack Armstrong, get that garbage out of here. Get that garbage out of here.
And I think you're trying to quote Austin Carr there. Get that weak stuff out of here. I know you weren't. I just wanted to mention Austin Carr. Next up, The Conners. This is one of those shows I have mixed feelings about. I did watch when it originally came back as Roseanne, and then Roseanne left because, well, she's an idiot. And I really didn't see much of the Connors after that. Not because of Roseanne. I think I just lost general interest in the TV show. But again, the Connors ran for 7 seasons. I think it started in 2018 and it ended on April 23rd of this year. So that's not a bad run. Another reboot that unfortunately didn't last all that long, the Night Court reboot. And I'll admit, and anybody who's listened to this podcast for any length of time knows this, Night Court, OG Night Court that is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. This just didn't have that magic. I don't say that because Richard Mall never appeared, even though he passed away about 10 or 11 months after it premiered. I don't say that because you didn't have Marky Post, who would have been gone, and Harry Anderson, who would have been gone, and Charles Robinson. Follow the trend here. It just didn't have that same offbeat humor that sort of shocked people. Humor that maybe you can get away with in the 80s, that maybe in the 2020s may not necessarily fly. Yeah, comedies change. We've seen so many shows that are that single camera, like The Office and Parks and Recreation, DMV, stuff like that. Comedy changes, and unfortunately, some shows just don't work out. Also, like I said, it didn't help that they didn't do the same type of comedy, the same goofy slapstick with the goofy characters. Yes, you had Marsha Warfield occasionally. You had John Larroquette, albeit more tame than he was back 40 years ago. They tried. That's all I can say. They tried. NBC, it seems, just can't get a good comedy to save its life. Seriously. Young Rock didn't last long. Night Court didn't last long. St. Denis Medical, it's still around, but I'm afraid that's not going to be around much longer. Happy's Place with Reba and Melissa Peterman, I don't think that's going to be around that much longer. Maybe NBC just can't get a good comedy to save its life. Who knows? The next one, and this is a big one, Around the Horn. That was a staple on ESPN for, 22 years? I think it started in 2003. And I'll be the first to admit, I was never a big Around the Horn fan. I was a PTI fan. Something about Tony Reale just bugged me. I did not like Tony Reale. I mean, he may be a perfectly great person, but I just didn't like the show Around the Horn. But again, 22 years, you can't fault it. It did something right. But yeah, that's a big loss for ESPN. And I think that's also sort of dictating what's happening to ESPN. Think about ESPN even 5 years ago. What was ESPN showing 5 years ago in the afternoon? You had Highly Questionable, Around the Horn, PTI. Now 5 years later, you have no Highly Questionable. They went their separate ways, the Levitards. You don't have Around the Horn. You have PTI still, but the shows that they show nowadays, I'm sorry, it doesn't compare to the shows ESPN showed 10 years ago. Not a fan. Another landmark show that ended May 27th, The Handmaid's Tale. I don't know what we can say about it besides maybe it's a little telling as to what's going on with current affairs. But The Handmaid's Tale, good heavens, did it get a lot of acclaim, a lot of praise.
It got a lot of praise. It knew how to build a world. It knew how to tell a story. And it was one of those things in retrospect, you look back and think to yourself, what are the best hallmarks of a story like A Handmaid's Tale? They teach us that not so much that monsters exist. We know that monsters exist. They teach us that monsters can be overcome.
Something we need to keep in mind in this day and age. Next, and we already talked about the NBA on NBC, but we're going to talk about the NBA on TNT. May 31st of 2025 it ended. And again, It ended 30 plus years, 35 plus years on TNT. I mean, I remember back when I was a teenager watching NBA games on TNT. But even beyond that, the whole pregame show where you have Ernie Johnson and Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith and Shaq might be the best thing on TV associated with the NBA that is not the NBA games proper. They work so well together. They are so humorous. They are so knowledgeable. Thank heavens they're still around, just not on TNT, on ESPN. But that was devastating. But also the way that they ended everything. That last episode where they had all the crew, all the staff out in front of where they record, I do believe, or the building where they record. That was so nice. It was actually a very moving moment for me, especially since I knew at least one person who worked on the NBA and TNT and on NBA TV. Next up, again, another real big pop culture television show of the last 3 or 4 years is gone. Squid Game. Good heavens, did that become so popular almost overnight back in 2021, 2022. And it's gone after 3 seasons. I defer to Chico since he probably knows more about this than Greg, and definitely knows more about this than me. What happened?
Simply put, they told the story they were going to tell. They could have stopped at season 1, but there is that strange sort of dichotomy between commerce and art, and they managed to mesh the two into seasons 2 and 3, which expanded on the story in season 1 and kind of went its own way. And they thought, you know what, season 3, just a great place to stop there. And it's not like it's gone forever because Netflix still has Squid Game The Challenge, ironically justifying the story and the morals put forth in the original piece.
Next up, a very short-lived endeavor, but it couldn't happen to a greater piece of crap. The Merit Network, which was owned by Dr. Phil, gone in July. And I don't think it even survived a year. It was on my cable system. It was on Uverse. But I don't think it lasted much more than about 9 months. Not that they showed really anything new. They showed Cops reruns. They showed Dr. Phil reruns. Go figure. They showed Steve Harvey talk show reruns from, I'm guessing, a decade ago or so. The only real new stuff they showed was Dr. Phil did ride-alongs with ICE really early on this year. Talking like February, March. Again, maybe more propaganda in favor of that certain occupant of the White House and his administration. But it died a very quick death. And actually, taking a look on Friendly TV, there is what appears to be another Dr. Phil endeavor on there. I was going through the listings a couple of days ago and saw reruns of, I think it was the Dr. Phil show, and I'm going to venture that this is a Dr. Phil endeavor. Envoy TV. Never even heard of that. As of right now, literally as we're recording this, what's on Envoy TV? Dr. Phil. And actually, thanks Google AI, Envoy TV is a new purpose-driven media network from Dr. Phil McGraw. Launched in 2025 after its previous venture, Merit Street, filed bankruptcy. Joy, more Dr. Phil being forced down our throats. Next up, and this one I think affects a lot of people who are between the ages of about 35 and 50. The closing of Nelvana Studios. They made many of our cartoons from our childhoods. I just remember that logo at the end of the different TV shows with that polar bear. That may not be the best way to remember Nelvana, but that's what I remember them from.
I'll personally remember them for Babar.
I will remember them for Beetlejuice the Animated Series.
And where I remember them from, and I didn't see this all that much, but I remember watching this with my sister when she was younger. I remember them for the Care Bears. But again, you heard 3 different responses from the 3 of us. They did so much stuff. Eek the Cat. How can I forget Eek the Cat? I loved Eek the Cat back in the 90s. Who doesn't like Savage Steve Holland? Just saying. Next up, some more recent cancellations. Bel Air. The gritty reboot of The Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
It started out as a joke, it turned into this whole thing. It ended up having its own lore, its own following, its own form, its own fashion. It gave life to Peacock early on, and this is going to be one of those shows that's remembered not just for its run, but also how it chose to end the run.
Not a U.S. show per se, but Neighbors ended again, December 11th. Just one of the most popular shows in Australian history. And not just big in Australia. Very big, especially in the UK as well. And I think to end this segment, I think we need to talk about the biggest ending of them all this year, Stranger Things.
And as we're putting this episode out, as we're recording this, episodes 5 through 7 of the final season just dropped. And I think by the time this episode comes out, the final episode will be out on New Year's Eve. And talk about ending on a high note, Chico. This season has been just amazing so far.
The episodes are sort of overlong, but they put so much stuff into each one. It's like you almost don't mind that you have to go back and rewatch it to see what you missed.
I think it's fitting that we end this part of the show on what is really going to be an impactful series. One that people remember, I think especially when we look back at COVID time. I think that's when it gained a lot of popularity. But Stranger Things, it brought back so much of 80s culture to a new generation. Good to educate them on the good old days, if you will.
The good and the bad, like new Coke. Am I right, Mike?
You mean Coke 2?
Oh, sure.
We don't call it New Coke in my house. It was Coke 2. Coca-Cola Classic is the only Coke in my house. Unlike David Stern's, am I right?
Ah,
This would be the one time where he's like, no, that's not funny.
You don't joke about my Coke. Yes, we do. And as always, there's a lot more shows that ended in 2025, but those are the big ones. Now, the last part of the show, and this is the toughest part of the show. And again, there's so many people that passed away, we can't go through all of them, but we're going to try to do our best in those who passed in 2025. We'll start off with Bob Uecker. Yes, he was a very lackluster baseball player, but good heavens, did he make it up with his baseball announcing, with advertising, Miller Lite ads, but also being on Mr. Belvedere. Such a polymath. He did everything, and he did everything well, and he is an absolute legend in Milwaukee. Next, another one that really hits home. I'd say more for Chico and Greg than me, but I respect this person, and I respect what he did. David Lynch. Yes, he was a little weird, but he also created one of the absolute finest series in television history in Twin Peaks. A brilliant individual. Next up, another one of those people that I don't know how anybody could not love this woman. She was funny, she was perky, she was upbeat, always played positive characters. Positive in the sense of had a very positive outlook on life. I'm talking about Lynn Marie Stewart. We'd know her as Miss Yvonne, the most beautiful woman in the world on Pee Wee's Playhouse, but also we'd know her as Charlie's mom on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Just a great personality, a huge loss. And they did a proper tribute to her on the final episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia this season, which actually I think was the only episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia that she appeared in on this season. Next up, and this one's tragic because this person, we lost her at 39 years old. Michelle Trachtenberg. The Adventures of Pete and Pete, Buffy, Gossip Girl. 39 is way too young. Next, this person's only really known for one TV show, I would say. But again, sort of like Bob Uecker, his talents are so widespread. He was good at everything he did. Talking about George Foreman. Yes, we know him from the TV show George, but he had a little success with a certain lean, mean grilling machine, but also you can't discount what he did as a boxer. He was a champion. He was a champion in everything he did, even if George wasn't as good as the other things he did in life. A minor one that I'm going to add at the last moment here, Joe Farrago. You may remember him as an infomercial pitchman. He did host Break the Bank in 1986 after Gene Rayburn got let go. But also, I remember seeing him on Married with Children as the father to a bratty child who was getting a car for his birthday. That's not even really the reason I bring him up. Just in the last couple of days, it was revealed on an upload on YouTube that he was actually on The Dating Game back in 1978. And he didn't win.
And I have something to add about Joe Farrago, Mike, and this is going to blow your mind. He appears on a couple of episodes of Knots Landing as a talk show host. And not only that, but he gives away his talk show to Karen, Michelle Lee's character. And Chico, that's where it begins the epic storyline of Karen's stalker.
Wait, he gives away his talk show?
Yeah, because he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Sort of in the same manner that Bob Costas gave his talk show to Greg Kinnear.
Okay, then.
But you're not going to believe this, Mike. Do you know who it turns out her stalker is?
Who was her stalker?
Her stalker turns out to be the producer of the talk show. And it is played by... Okay, sit down. You're going to be shocked. Because when I found out this twist, it blew my fucking mind, okay? The stalker, the producer of the talk show that Karen show is at, is played by Chris Lemon.
Oh my gosh. The same Chris Lemon that was on the Jizzle Drizzle?
That's right. Oh man, if only the Hulkster were here to hear this.
Oh my god, really?
Do you hear my name?
Why do I keep hearing this wind?
Don't mind me. I had too many beans over Christmas. That's the wind. Absolutely just repugnant, Santa. Go away. Somebody's getting coal in 2026, you bastard. Whatever. Richard Chamberlain from Shogun back in 1980 and the Thornbirds. Couple of huge miniseries back in the day. Big name, big loss. For classic TV fans, Dennis the Menace passed away. Jay North. We also lost Patty Maloney this year. Renowned short person. She was on the Star Wars Holiday Special, which I just saw a couple of nights ago, and whew, boy, that is even worse the second time around. We also lost Wink Martindale this year. Where do we know him from? I think we should start with Tic-Tac-Toe. That was his bread and butter back in the 70s and 80s. That's where I remember seeing him for the first time. But he also did High Rollers, even just for a year, Trivial Pursuit, Debt, Gambit. He was the stereotypical game show host. When you are said, hey, you're a game show host in the 80s, the person that comes to mind is Wink Martindale, with the hair, the capped teeth, all that stuff. The over-the-top demeanor. That was Wink Martindale to a T. Next up, and this one's really sad, Jonathan Joss from King of the Hill. Just with everything that went down with his passing, just absolutely sickening, disgusting, and saddening. But he did take part in the King of the Hill reboot. So at least he got to do that before his very untimely and tragic passing. And when we talk about Jonathan Joss, he was the voice of John Redcorn on King of the Hill. We also lost Ruth Buzzy this year. Laugh-In. Probably one of the big stars from Laugh-In. Very sad. And another big loss from a female comedian on TV. Not necessarily a comedian, but on a comedy series. Loretta Swit. We lost Hot Lips Houlihan this year. In the world of composing, another big name. Alf Clausen. You'd know him from The Simpsons primarily. I remember him from doing music on Alf. And he also did Moonlighting. He was basically the person who did your television soundtrack for the last 40 years, more or less. In the world of journalism, we lost Bill Moyers, PBS NewsHour. And another loss in the composing world, we lost Lalo Schifrin, who composed, among other things, the Mission Impossible theme, Mannix theme, and actually, I was just going through the other day the Quinn Martin soundtracks I have. I forget what show he did for Quinn Martin, but he was given credit for a number of tracks on some Quinn Martin show. I forget which one. A quick addition here. It was Most Wanted from 1976 and 1977. Next up, and this one is another one of those that was just very tragic. Nobody expected the loss of Malcolm Jamal Warner when he was swimming in the Gulf of Mexico. So sad. We would know him as Theo on The Cosby Show. That's where he got his big break. But we'd also know him from Malcolm and Eddie. Such a sad loss there. Also in the summer, we lost Ozzy Osbourne. Yes, he's more of a musician, but I don't think you can minimize the impact that the Osbournes had on reality television back 20 to 25 years ago. Really, I think that show is what made him known to an entirely new generation. Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath, I think, is more of a 70s and 80s thing, but now he's on this reality show in the 2000s, and his popularity was completely revived. He became instantaneously well known for just about the rest of his life. Another big loss from the sitcom world. We lost Lonnie Anderson. WKRP in Cincinnati, but by no means was that all she was known for. I think she was most known for being Burt Reynolds' wife. But yeah, Lonnie Anderson, that was a big, big, big loss. Holly Holiday. She was known for a little bit of stuff, but 3 simple words made her career. Kiss my grits. She was Flo and Alice. In the world of sports, this is maybe not the biggest name, but this is one that I remember growing up with back in the 80s. And I know Greg, I think, shares the same feelings about this person when he did color commentary on NBC NFL games. Former Cincinnati Bengals tight end Bob Trumpy passed away this year. We also lost, at age 100, by the way, June Lockhart from Lassie, Lost in Space, many things. Absolute legend. More recently, I shouldn't even have to get into this too much because it's been all over the news the last number of weeks. Rob Reiner.
Mm.
I'm not even going to say anything more than that. Rob Reiner, we all know what happened, and I could not give him enough praise for what he did, not just on television, but in terms of movies. We could be here forever talking about what Rob Reiner did for television, for movies, for comedy. I wouldn't want to disrespect him by leaving anything out, but y'all have heard the news. So tragic. The last one I'm going to mention is Anthony Geary from General Hospital. He was Luke. And if you are a kid of the early 80s, from about 80 to about 84, you knew how big Luke and Laura's wedding was on General Hospital. He was pop culture lore in terms of Luke and Laura and all that. But again, did so much more. And again, by no means are those all the important people who passed away. It's just, if we were to talk about everybody who passed away in 2025, this would end up being about a 4-hour show, because just taking a look really briefly at our list, we've got about 4.5 pages of people that we could mention. And literally, our list is a person's name and what they did. So I would say we have well in excess of probably about 100, 125 names. There's no way we can get through all of them.
Yeah, Mike, there's no way we can get through all of them. Oh, wait a minute. I just forgot a name that we didn't mention, but okay. Okay, remember that videotape that I got from Roger, Stasiak, and Graham?
Yeah, I remember that.
Do you want me to play it? Because I was told that this relates to somebody who we lost this year.
Well, yeah, weren't you given like direct instructions to not play it until the end of the year?
Yes.
I think you've got to follow the directions. You've got to play it.
All right, let me stick in the VCR. I'll try to get my mic to the TV here.
Hello, Hulkamaniacs, male, female, otherwise. If you're listening to this, the Hulkster's dead. I got the idea to do this video wheel from watching Constance McCashin do the same thing on Knots Landing. I appreciate her so much, I wanted to do a video wheel for all the Hulkamaniacs saying, I'm gone, but I'm not going to be forgotten, brother. In this will, I'm leaving stuff to a lot of people, but I've got a very special request to leave stuff to 3 very influential people in my lives. I'm leaving it to Greg and Mike and Chico at It Was a Thing on TV. To Greg, I'm leaving him all my Pastamania stuff. I know he loves Pastamania. He likes bulking up on those carbs, brother. Hope you enjoy them Pastamania stuff, Greg.
What the hell are they going to do with all these Hulk Ruse guys that have been left in this will?
Are you sure they're even edible? Because they'd be pretty old at this point.
Yeah, about 30 years old. Okay, let me just continue playing this because we got you and Chico to go here. But 30 years worth of pasta that's old. It's got to be moldy by now.
To Chico, I know you're not going to care about this at all, brother. But if you remember that commercial where I was swinging on the cannonball, you remember when you and Mike and Greg talked about that like 4 years ago? I left you the thong that I wore in that commercial.
Oh, hell no!
I knew you'd enjoy it, brother. And to Mike, if Chico doesn't appreciate him getting that thong, I'm going to give it to Mike. No, I don't want that. That's going to be like burned. No. Why do I want like some hairy 55, 60-year-old man's butt floss that he wore in a commercial for whatever it was, like predatory loans or something like that? No, just I'd rather have the 30-year-old pasta. Sucks to be you then. Why, thanks, Hulk.
How's he communicating with you through a VHS tape when he's dead?
I was a well-known psychic before I died, Greg. I knew you'd ask that question.
Oh, okay.
And my bitch ex-wife, she's got nothing in the will. Nothing. And her sister, Christina Claridge, screw you for having that 30 that one time when Butch Hartman was on Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour. I never forgave you for that. That's a deep cut.
I'm amazed the Hulkster remembers that.
1984 is a good year for me. I remember everything about 1984, brother.
Including the time you went 400 days a year wrestling, right?
And in 1985, I tried to make it 500 days a year. Well, that's it. If you watch this videotape, you can now throw it in the trash. It's totally useless. This message will destruct in 5 seconds. Wow, apparently Hulk Hogan watched a little bit of Mission Impossible back in the day.
Guys, it's sad. The Hulkster, he left all these things for us. And now we're never going to hear from him again. Oh, Mike, you're sad, right?
I've got a little tear in my eye. I don't know if it's because of that or because I got a little bit of schmutz in my eye. I don't know.
Chico, you're pretty sad too, right?
Oh, no. Anyway.
I heard that you're getting that thong back, Chico.
Oh, guys, it sucks, but I'm sure I wish that he was probably here right now with us, but unfortunately he's dead.
Well, you never know, Greg, because we've had the ghost of Bill Armstrong, and we have Alan Thicke that occasionally appears, even though Alan Thicke has been not with us for close to a decade. And Johnny Olsen, he's been gone for 40 years, and he still makes appearances. So maybe Hulk Hogan will return in some capacity.
Yeah, I wish he would. Wait, what did I say?
Wait a second, Greg. You said you wish something happened?
No. Wait, no, Santa, I did not mean it. I did not mean it, okay? I said I wish for... No!
Can't walk this one back, buddy.
Remember, Greg, you said no takesies backsies. So I guess we're bringing Hulk back.
No, I didn't mean it.
Boy, it feels good to be alive once again, brothers.
Oh, fuck, no.
Did I miss anything in the last 4 months?
No.
How's my brother, Mr. Black, doing?
Oh, you don't want to know. Oh, wait, I'll tell you this. Did you ever meet somebody named Bubba?
Several times.
Oh, okay.
What did Bubba do this time?
Let's just say he went downtown, if you know what I mean.
I didn't know he played basketball.
Sure.
He was doing something with balls, apparently. Never mind.
Oh, boy.
Well, Santa, I hope you're happy that you gave me that wish.
You used it the way you wanted to use it, Gregory. Can't blame Santa.
Well, I get what I paid for.
You paid nothing. So, yeah, you got what you paid for. Oh.
Thanks for getting that Switch 2, by the way.
I got you a Switch, too. I thought I was supposed to get you a Vectrex.
Oh, that would have been great, too.
Oh, I gotta think of some video game system that Greg wouldn't care for.
Rotara Supervision.
Yes, that's what I should have gotten you. But enjoy your Switch. Oh, no, it's not a Switch. It's a Switch 2. So you get to spend $80 on new video games. Ha, 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 ha. I mean, ho, 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 ho. I think I'm going to go to sleep now until late 2026. You guys be safe. Enjoy your holidays. Enjoy the new year. Ho, 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 ho. Oh, that was cool. Santa was here.
Yeah, it was. Well, that was the year 2025. And what do we got in store in 2026? This.
My show is dead. It's not even gonna air.
Oh my God. Did they say why?
People thought it was disgusting. Jeez, you defecate on one corpse. Good call, babe. You got lucky, Shannon.
I didn't volunteer for this squad. It was probably somebody's idea of a joke. Put the New York guy with fast company and watch him get run over.
Jack Austin, astronaut. exposed to inappropriate levels of solar energy.
Sunlight makes him the world's smartest man.
I know everything! I want that brain taken out.
Hi, sorry to interrupt. Quick question. Would you rather spend Monday night with him or with me?
Live in.
Think about it.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Tabitha. She and her family lived in a typical American home. There was a mother, Samantha, a father, Darren, little Tabitha, and her brother, Adam.
Release the drone.
Dang it! Shuffle the bandit, and he's gonna find a hiding place.
Stay way down there.
Now, you've earned the right to move 3 spaces, but the bandit's gonna find a hiding spot. He's got it. Now, if the bandit's in here, you lose control, so we don't want a bandit, right?
No bandit.
No bandit. Together.
No bandit.
Welcome, everybody, to the CHP Skate with the Stars benefit. Come on, everyone, put on those skates, get down and skate with the stars, all right?
Police Squad in color. Starring Leslie Nielsen. Also starring Alan North. And Rex Hamilton as Abraham Lincoln.
Mature Principal Dingelman and his crack team of In Search of technicians have found you an equally or very nearly equally qualified substitute teacher.
Hi, class. Sorry I'm late. Go ahead, yell at me. I deserve it.
Shemapel Muffy Tepperman, school leader.
I'm your substitute teacher. I'm a hog.
I'm a hog.
You certainly are.
What the hell is a Snavely?
So there's a little glimpse as to what we're going to cover in 2026. How about we put some end plugs in here and talk about what we're going to talk about to start 2026.
You can find us at our website, itwasathingontv.com, on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV Podcast, and elsewhere at It Was a Thing on TV. You can find us on any podcast player, and we're also on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our releases, including what's coming up next time.
We're going to start 2026 by doing a little bit of magic. We got some tricks up our sleeve. Not those types of tricks. But we're going to talk about probably one of the absolute best one-season wonders in television history, where Bill Bixby, he is a, what's the word for it?
Prestidigitator.
Yeah, easy for me to say. I almost said prestidigitarian, but I think that's a certain religious sect. All right. So there's our last outtake for 2025. Okay. To start 2026, we're going to talk about Bill Bixby being a prestidigitator. Yes, I said prestidigitator. I was going to say prestidigitarian, but apparently that's some sort of religious sect I don't want to know anything about. So we're going to start 2026 by talking about something up Bill Bixby's sleeve right here at It Was a Thing on TV. Chico, thank you for yet another successful year. And Greg, thank you as well for another successful year. And by all means, thank you, the listeners, for another very successful year here at It Was a Thing on TV. Come back next year, specifically Friday, January 9th, and listen to what tricks we have up our sleeve to start 2026. Greg, one last time in 2025, give us the best roar you have. Send us out on a high note. Wow! Oh, that's a good one.
I think that's a very nice way to close out the program and the year.
And I personally want to thank everybody connected with 50 Grand Slam, everyone with the Ralph Andrews Production Company, the entire staff, sensational crew, and to you folks who were nice enough to support us, and for all of your letters of both praise and criticism. Without it, it wouldn't have been a happy, healthy animal, which indeed it was. Very proud to have been a part of it. That's it for this year. Happy New Year to all of you. See you Monday on Name That Tune. Happy New Year from all of us to all of you. Bye-bye.
Some of our contestants will receive a supply of Party Time cocktail mixes, 8 delicious flavors made with freeze-dried natural fruit juices for a great drink every time Party Time. Flammel, the only sugarless bubble gum in chunks kids like best, gives you ounce for ounce 26% more for your money than other leading sugarless bubble gums. 1 case of Sous Bee Spun Cream Honey, the spreadable pure honey in the reusable plastic table server. Sous Bee Spun Cream Honey, the delicious pure honey spread. Taylor, New York State Premium Champagne, Dry Champagne, Brut Champagne, Pink Champagne, Sparkling Burgundy, and Cold Duck. One for most every taste and occasion, furnished by Taylor Wine Company.